Anytime we have a Nintendo financial investor briefing, there's always the round one of news with the big stuff that everybody cares about. And this year, obviously, no doubt, it was the confirmation that Nintendo will indeed be talking about their successor to the Nintendo Switch in this financial or fiscal year, essentially, aka before the end of March 2025, in terms of them revealing the console. I am expecting the console to launch in March 2025 personally, but there is also a round two of news that sometimes goes a little bit more unnoticed because a lot of it takes place under the Q&A section of the investors briefing, and then we have to wait for the official translations and not just getting what people are saying happened on the call. And there's a lot of back and forth until all of the dust settles, and you might realize digging through some of these questions that we actually have some exciting confirmation about what Nintendo is doing with their games specifically for the next gen platform. So we're going to get on the same page with all of that today. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first start off this conversation by going over to Go Nintendo and reading through their detailed typed up article around this together, because if you are somebody who enjoys the collection of physical games, we have some great news to write home about, because we don't have to worry about that going away on Switch 2, and hopefully not for the foreseeable future with Nintendo, although we will get into that and when Nintendo may transition away from physical media. But we at least have confirmation it's not happening this go around, as you can see this following post, which reads, Nintendo remains committed to physical media with Switch's successor. Box copies aren't going anywhere. Digital has been a big part of all game companies in the last decade, so much so that many studios have been releasing their titles digital only. Rest assured, Nintendo will continue going the physical and digital round moving forward. Nintendo recently shared their fiscal year results, and that was followed by the usual investor Q&A. During that meeting, Nintendo was asked about their efforts in the digital space as digital sales continue to grow for Nintendo. While Nintendo will certainly expand their digital offerings as time goes on, they also remain committed to physical software releases as well. The exact question and answer translation reads as follows: I think one big change over the life cycle of Nintendo Switch is the remarkable growth in digital sales. Looking back at the progress of the digital business and its contribution to financial results thus far, I would like to know what expectations you have for the digital business over the life cycle of the successor to Nintendo Switch. Furukawa responds, as you pointed out, the expanded scale of our digital business can be cited as one of the major changes since the release of Nintendo Switch. In the previous fiscal year, robust sales of Nintendo Switch Online memberships and add-on content for games such as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Splatoon 3, as well as the depreciation of the yen, led to increases in both digital sales amount and the digital sales ratio. Our objective is not to simply increase the share of digital sales, but to maximize overall game software sales, including sales of physical software. This policy will remain unchanged going forward. In this context, we need to enhance user friendliness for both consumers who play packaged software and those who play downloaded versions. Going forward, we intend to keep working on improvements to devise better solutions. Compared to 2017, when the Nintendo Switch was launched, digitalization has progressed in many aspects of our lives. At this moment, if digital content continues to become more useful and convenient over time, we believe that more of our consumers will choose digital products with the successor to Nintendo Switch, just as they did with Nintendo Switch. So you may or may not remember, there was a lot of rumors and leaks suggesting that we might even get two different console models at launch this time for Nintendo Switch 2, and one of those could have been something that was like a digital only console. And following Nintendo's official comments around their mindset with their digital business merged with their physical business, I don't think that we are going to see that this time around, although I also don't think we are safe from it ever happening in the future. I think when you look at the gaming landscape as a whole, specifically over on the Xbox and PlayStation storefronts right now, there is clearly a large push towards digital downloads, and trust me, I understand the convenience behind it. You don't have to leave your home to play all of the newest games, but as someone who really enjoys going to a store and collecting games, looking at the box art before you get to pop it in, and while we don't get instruction manuals anymore, you can admire some of the work that was put into the case itself and the pictures on the back and read different features about the game, and then you go play that game, and you know that if it is content complete on the cartridge, which does not always happen on Nintendo Switch games to be fair, that you will be able to boot that up 20 years in the future without having to worry at all. Whereas these digital storefronts, you do have the reality that if the servers go down and you can't re-download your purchased content, one day a game that you paid full price for may not be available to you at all whatsoever in the future. And we're even seeing a lot of shifts within the broader media market, shifting away from physical stuff altogether. You're seeing Best Buy Buy, Target, and many other retailers, even Walmart, rumors of them just not selling Blu-ray, DVDs, or any kind of physical movies or music anymore. And you start to look at the split of gamers, and really only like half or less of gamers buy physical anymore. And you know it's going to continue to get more in that digital direction, especially as the younger generation grows up and they don't really see the value in owning something physical. It's just more of a headache to them, which, to be fair, I mean, I can't remember the last time I popped in a Blu-ray to my PS5 to watch a movie, as opposed to just going through one of the streaming services that I have far too many of to watch said movie. And I can definitely see this slowly happening with gaming over the course of time. But what is nice about Nintendo stating that they're clearly committed to maintaining support for physical games through the rest of this upcoming console generation is the fact that we are just getting started with this console generation. We won't know about the console until later this year, and potentially even as late as March 2025, even though, as I mentioned, that's when I personally think the console will launch. But let's say it launches early next year, we still have this as our flagship device from Nintendo for at least the next 5 to 7, maybe even 8 or 9 years before they move on to their next hardware. And at that point, you know that we will have physical support for games across the board. And that's not necessarily going to be the case for third-party titles, because we may see more and more of a shift to primarily releasing digital-only games. But in terms of first-party Nintendo published content, we should have those physical aspects intact. And you just look at it, even with some of their more simple products like Nintendo World Championship NES Edition that will be coming out in July. They know they're targeting two separate audiences there. They clearly have one of the cheaper releases for $30, just pick up the game on the eShop, and then they have one of the deluxe edition for the collectors who are going to want to add that thing for the historical value into their gaming collection. And while that comes at a more hefty price tag, it's there for that audience, and Nintendo understands the split there. But one thing I do think we might see happen more and more in this generation, and that we kind of have started to see happen towards the end of the Nintendo Switch life cycle, is the fact that we will probably see a lot of day one shadow drops at Nintendo Direct presentations for games such as Metroid Prime Remastered, where you can download it, that game, Nintendo just shadow drops it onto their fan base, a first party title, and then they say the physical version for it will be available a couple weeks after, or in some cases even a month or two after, or even further down the line than that. I can't remember the exact gap in Pikmin 1 and 2 collection being released for the Switch, but it was revealed, I believe, at the June Direct, and I don't think the physical copy was actually available from retailers all the way until something like September. So a few months after everybody else could download it digitally is when you actually had the option to purchase it physically, and we might see more of a divide like that, which does create that issue. If you want to pick up a game day one from Nintendo, you might not always get a day and date launch on a physical version, but it does sound like from their first party games perspective, for the entire life cycle of the successor to the Nintendo Switch, we should be able to safely set our expectations on Nintendo supporting physical media. And that is great news to me as somebody who will continue to choose to buy my games when possible in the physical format. That said, I totally get the appeal of digital. Trust me, I have my entire own section of digital purchases that I've made over the Nintendo Switch generation. And fortunately, since we know Nintendo account will be rolling forward, and I'm 99% sure this next system will have backwards compatibility, we should be able to easily re-download those on the next gen console and still continue to enjoy our digital libraries. But you start fast forwarding 20, 30 years into the future, and you want to go back to your old classic retro Nintendo Switch console at that time, and will stuff that is digital still be intact? That is a big question mark right now, which is why I still like physical games when possible. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about Nintendo's statements here. Do you think they will remain committed to physical media all throughout the Switch 2's generation, like they have stated here in this investor briefing? Do you think it will be something that is more split this time around, and we might see a lot more games that just get dropped earlier on a digital release and then later with a physical release? Or do you think those will be smaller one-off situations and we will largely see day and date launches for both versions of first-party Nintendo games? And bonus question, are you a physical collector yourself? Are you somebody who purchases all your games digitally? And why do you prefer the format that you do choose to pick up? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave the video, whether we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.